There is a lot of bad-mouthing and criticism going on around Devon Laratt's training methods leading into his fight against Levan Saginishvili. The common theme is that whilst Levan is training away over in Georgia, smashing heavy weights and lifting in a very typical style of training for strength, Devon is supposedly messing around back in the West with featherweights and meaningless amounts of repetitions. But it seems to me that there are quite a few flaws with this line of thinking. Yes, personally, I am in favour of more general strength training and then pure table practice aside from that to transfer that new strength into specific channels, rather than trying to build strengths in specific channels with exercises that vaguely mimic those channels but are loaded. Sprinters don't sprint with weights anymore because people have realised that sprinting is not against weights, and training to sprint against weights only trains them to sprint better against weights and slower, which is not what the end product of sprinting wants to be. So sprinters get the body strong as a general whole unit in the gym with exercises like squats and lunges just to strengthen the system itself as a whole unit, and then they use that raw, new, stronger unit to practice and perfect the actual act of sprinting. In the same way, MMA and judo fighters do not train MMA or judo against weights. They go to a gym and get strong and then go to the mats and get good at their sport. Obviously the specifics change from person to person, but for the vast majority of people the simple, boring method works very well. So Devon is training this way, right? Well, I'm not sure. The first point I want to raise is that it's entirely possible that he is still training with traditional weights, we just don't get to see it. He has an extensive history of training in this way and it has gotten him very far. Why would he drastically alter the method if it works? And he has gotten much bigger since the period where he supposedly stopped training traditionally. Look at how he has changed physically when he was younger to how he is now. It's not that big a time difference, but the transformation is quite profound. So you say it is just the pancakes that are doing this. Well, they do certainly help, but the training he is supposedly doing would be comparable to athletes like Lance Armstrong, who also took pancakes and trained in a more endurance-focused style. Cycling is essentially a lot of repetitions. Why hasn't he gotten as big as Devon? Well, is Devon eating more relative to the calories burnt? Probably. But he's also gotten stronger, or at least retained strength. How? If you just stop doing something, the body pretty readily adapts to the not needing the capacity to do it. If you stop going to the gym and do nothing in its place, the body is pretty eager to let you get weaker and out of shape. Neither of these things seem to have happened to Devon. So from that we can pretty confidently conclude that somewhere along the road Devon is training with resistance at least enough to keep him as strong as he is. Is he hiding this training? Very possibly. We know that he has a lot of mental mind games going on, and not revealing exactly where he is in training does a lot to keep his opponents in a worried sense of doubt. We've seen that Levan benches X amount of weight, and we just all assume it transfers to Y amount on the table, which it might do. But with Devon we have no idea. He has built this shroud of mystery around himself that gets people talking and spreading the word about him. If nothing else and he ends up just losing to Levan, then this publicity through discussion is quite obviously very good promotion for the sport itself, regardless of his performance. There is also the fact that he seems to be doing a substantial amount of table training, which is going to be a form of resistance for him. But the issue there, if that was his sole method of achieving resistance, and it was done for an extended period of time, the amount of people he would encounter on the table and train against who approach a level of resistance that Levan would require preparing for is very, very small. So he is only really training, if this is true, to be able to beat the people we have seen him train against. In the same way, Devon has access to very few people with the strength he may possibly need if Devon is even remotely close to the level of Levan. And there is the possibility that this is planned by Devon for more devious psychological warfare. If Devon can create this spectre of opposition in the mind of Levan, and the levels required to beat it are unknown to him, then he's likely to train to even greater extremes, which runs a much higher risk of injuring himself and leaving him weaker on the day he needs to be the strongest. So I think it's a pretty safe bet to say there is more going on than what we see. Just like everything, you are only shown what people putting out the content feel there is benefit to being seen. Some people do have more going on behind this, some have less, but when money and fame is involved, you can be sure fingers are manipulating perceptions somewhere behind the curtains. So is Levin going to steamroll Devon? Possibly, but I think that Devon may present a much bigger challenge than any of us watching and judging from the sidelines can predict. When people say this will be the biggest match ever, I don't think they're exaggerating. This is on par with Alexei Voivoda and John Brzenk, but with an awful lot more publicity and money and pancakes pumped into it. What do you think? Have I missed something? Is Levan actually using fake weights, and is that only a 20-kilogram bench press? Have they found some revolutionary new method that allows you to make monsters out of feathers? I don't know, but that would be interesting. But I'll see you later.